Welcome back to the Punch channel. This is a second run-through on the Stalingrad relief game. It is based on the Battles in the East rules, published as part of World at War magazine, issue number 107, the game edition. It just came out, last month, actually. People who had ordered it were getting it as early as April, so great magazine and really quite enjoyable game. It's got a few peculiarities, but I'm still coming to grips with parts of the system. So I've already played one repetition, one playthrough on the game. All 10 turns went all the way. And the Axis basically came up here, punched through a supply corridor, and relieved 6th Army. Massive 18 victory points, strategic victory, I believe, is how it was characterized. Let's make sure of that. So I wanted to have an exploration to come back again and, Axis strategic victory, if you get over 10 victory points. And every unit, every combat unit that is in supply at the end of the game here in the Stalingrad pocket gives you a point. So the maximum possible points in the game is 20. That's all these units plus Lyapachev and the Beketovka hex that the Soviets own. I got 18 out of 20. So I thought, well, I was wondering whether the Soviet forces did a proper defense, gave a good showing of themselves, particularly 51st Army, supplemented by 4th Mech here in the early going. And so I thought, okay, let's reset. Let's have a second repetition, rep 2, and let's give it a shot. So this is turn 3A. Last turn, recount some of this stuff for you. I'm going to recount it in the next segment, okay? But what I'm going to do here is just kind of tell the story of the turn. That'll be a segment. And then some of my thoughts on what the heck's going on here. There was also a question that came up from one of the viewers, which was, hey, why is 6th Army just standing pat for the game, particularly commentary on the game that I just concluded. And I think I have some insight on that. They don't have to, right? But it's probably advisable that they do. So I'm going to segment and I'm going to come back and we'll talk about turn 3A and then probably segment again for some thoughts. I think I might be pretty much done here. I just wanted to explore the early turns. And also the 6th Army, why don't they attack more type of thing. Okay, let's come back and do that. Right, so let's do a recap here on turn 3 Axis. So this is more or less, it's an interesting configuration. So let me pull these guys back. This was the end of turn 2 Soviet. 4th Mech had come down on their second turn's move, and they had done basically surrounded 6th Panzer Division right here near Skabalin. And the idea was to at least take them out of the fight for a turn, to kind of shift the correlation of forces so that Verkhnekumsky could hold out a bit better. So unfortunately, 23rd Panzer was able to come up from this area, roughly speaking, and surround 4th Mech in turn, and also relieve 6th Panzer. So the shoe was on the other foot. Got a 10-to-1 attack when everything was counted, and got an elimination on most of 4th Mech. So the advance after combat put me about here with 1, 2, 3, 4, no zone of control on the headquarters unit, and with a configuration that looked something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, something like that. Actually, I think like that. It doesn't matter all that much. So that's what we've got going on here for that particular combat. Let's consider the situation here at Verkhnechumsky. So Verkhnechumsky was the site of a significant engagement during this operation that really took about 3 days, if I recall correctly. It took about 3 days for the Germans to get past it. That would be about a turn and a half in game time turns. So 2 turns realistically. So the situation here is that we had 13th Mech coming from the east and basically slotted in and replaced this stack of units at Verkhnechumsky. Now, I think this placement of these units is not all that great. The more I think about it, the more I think if you want to do defense in this game, what you need to be doing instead is to have lines, right? Defensive lines. That's why they have defensive lines. And to have done something like this, which would have prevented the surround attack, the concentric attack, and would have been much better. One, it would have kept them in supply. And this stack right here, 13th Mech altogether is 2 2s and a 1 with anti-tank and armor. So it is a grand total of 5. It makes the math much better. But I did not do that. And because I did not do that, we got them into an out-of-supply situation, which took their defense from 5 down to 3. Was able to get 8-to-1 odds and got a lucky, fairly lucky, 6 die roll, which eliminated the entire stack. And I did take the terrain effects into account. That's 2 left. And the 13th Mech itself provided a 1 left. So, but was able with... if I recall correctly, I used the 2 right from 57th Panzer. The 1 right from Kirchner went over here to this combat, if I recall correctly. And got the 8-to-1, got the 6, got the eliminate, and that is an interesting state of affairs. 1, 2, 1, 2, for that matter, 1, 2. And then 1, 2. That's fine. These guys can stay here. And then after move would be I get 3 hexes, 1, 2, 3, to put these guys in a bit of a bind here, because at this point they are now out of supply themselves. So they're going to have to extricate. They are pocketed. So got a nice surround on these guys. And of course we took out a lot. 5 steps of units here. This is 6 steps of units. So let's talk about the Romanians next. Well, the question is, what's up with 6th Army? There was a question that came in response to, I want to say it was the first playthrough's Turn 9 Soviet video. I'm not entirely sure of that. I apologize if I got it wrong. I've slept since then. But the question, there were 2 questions. One is, why isn't 6th Army attacking more? The other one was, are there rules that prohibit 6th Army from, in fact, doing so? Okay, so I'm going to address the last question first. First, there are no rules specifically that under those particular circumstances would prohibit 6th Army from attacking. Now, here early in the game, they may not conduct attacks until they go into attack supply. Now, when do they do that? They get 1 turn of attack supply. Thereafter, they revert back to general, but they can then conduct attacks. It's perfectly fine. So over here is the line of the Mishkova River, right through here, and it extends out virtually past Evgonorovo, right? That's what this black line is that I've drawn on the plexiglass. Once German forces cross that line, once they get north of it, right, whether the river or this line of departure, if you will, phase line, something like that. Once that happens, 6th Army gets 1 turn of attack supply, and they are then free to attack. Now, on the turn, they can delay that attack supply by 1 turn. Okay, so suppose I cross. I'm going to cross the Rubicon, or in this case, the Mishkova. And they now, whatever game turn it happens to be, they have the option to take it this turn and get attack supply and be able to attack, or they can wait one turn. Now, in the prior game, that's exactly what I did. I waited one turn because I wanted the German units were more or less in the SETI area. SETI Alpha 4. They were in the SETI area, sorry. Not so much. They were in the SETI area, and I wanted them to come up a little bit closer before 16th Panzer would attack through here. Okay, so that explains why they have to wait, but once they've stopped waiting, why don't they attack more? Okay, so part of it is about victory conditions, part of it is about the bigger picture, and part of it is that I just didn't care to do so. It wasn't strictly necessary. So how to approach this? So the bigger picture, whoops, shaky cam. The bigger picture is there's a lot of 6th Army up here, right? 6th Army's in a pocket, and a goodly chunk of their forces are up here to the north. They're also to the east and north of this area, right? So it doesn't make, historically, it doesn't make sense to kind of, hey, let's pull all these guys out. Well, what about the guys up north, right? Or are we just abandoning them? Actually, it's not a horrible idea in some sense, because you get some units out, right? You get some of them back. And we know that that is a good thing, right? Given the historical outcome, ultimately, that lost them all. I would point out that that I did successfully extricate 16th Panzer and got them all the way down here. They were clear, free and clear, but I had a nice corridor established within the time frame of the game, and that was the mission, right? That was the mission. Nothing else was the mission. Historically, Hitler did not give, never gave the order to do a breakout, even when 4th Panzer Army had gotten here to the line of the Mishkova. The order still was not given. So could we assume it would be given? Maybe. But the game's not really set up for that. It is Stalingrad relief. It is not Stalingrad rescue. So that's generally how I played the game. And I played it fairly passively. The German forces are not terribly strong here. They're pretty good at defense. We've got some 3s. We've even got some, I want to say this guy's a 4. Yeah, we've got some pretty strong defensive units sitting under field forts. And if I start attacking, well, I'm up against decently strong defensive units as well. And with the field forts, either way, it's just a slog. Plus, if I take a retreat result and I don't want to eat the casualty, I have to come back out and lose the field fort. And all of a sudden, the math, the shoe is on the other foot, odds-wise. So it just didn't seem like a prudent option to really be attacking all that much. But with these guys, yes. All right. So we've got the historical reasons not to do it. We've got rules early in the game that prevent you from doing it at all. And then later on, it just didn't seem reasonable. Plus, now this is a fairly strong attack over here. It's 3. I've got 2 and 3. And another 2, I think. So it's 2-to-1 base, but it comes back and it's 1-to-2, right? Even if I get some mods, maybe I'm 2-to-1, maybe I'm 3-to-1, and that's about it. That's not a very strong attack. And any loss that the attacker takes, and it's 50% odds that I lose something, I would have to come out of these field forts, and all of a sudden I'm right next to where 2nd Guards Army is coming in, right? And 2nd Guards Army could say, you guys over here, 4th Panzer Army, you're strong, but 6th Army, hey, let's just go in and say hello to them and, welcome them to the workers' paradise, I suppose, or some form of paradise in any event. So it just didn't seem prudent to do that sort of thing. And that's about what I had to say, The odds were not good. The situation was not good. Supply situation, too. They only get one shot. Right, and they needed 4th Panzer Army to be relatively close to where that one shot took place. and 4th Panzer Army couldn't be in 2 places at once. And this with 6th Mech coming on in turn 9, with 2nd Guards Mech coming on in turn 6. This is not a good place to be. If I had 48th Panzer Corps as an alternate rule, attacking in this direction and putting a bind on this area here. Sorry, it's a bit off the map where I'm doing these gestures, but this circled hex is one of the entry hexes. Let's zoom out a bit. So if I'd had 48th Panzer Corps rather, coming across and threatening the Apachev, threatening to come the short way, if you will, rather than the long way from Kotelnikovo, that might have been a lot more viable, but it would have been the same play that we had here at Plantator, with 4th Panzer Army punching in and the available, though limited, forces punching out. Okay, that'll do it. All right, so that's it for this run-through. Right now, I guess my conclusion would be that Soviet defense forward, 51st Army defense, it requires some thought. I think it's possible to gum up the works here at Verkhneykumsky if you are properly air raid, right? If you properly set up a defensive line, and you can have 4th Mech come in and join that defensive line, or at least threaten the flank, and so spread out the Germans, I think you could make a 2 or 3 turn go of it here if you really had to. But you see this sort of sideline. It's not that hard to put Axay out of play, and to do it with an economy of force, right? So, just interesting how this game goes. Pay attention to your supply in this game. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, enjoyed making it. I'm enjoying looking at the what ifs and how exactly do you play battles in the East. I'm still coming to grips with that, as you can see. Making mistakes on the Soviet side, not making too many mistakes on the German side, but the correlation of forces favors them over here. They've got a lot more force, a lot more units, a lot more combat power, and artillery for multipliers and whatnot than the Soviets do. All right. Well, take care, and I'll see you down the road.